In the Texans' season-opening win over the Colts, the new faces shined in their debuts. Stefon Diggs found the end zone not once but twice from C.J. Stroud, while Joe Mixon led a massive running attack with 159 of Houston's 213 yards on the ground. When the clock hit zero, the W was in the bag. A 1-0 start. Can the Texans make it 2-0 and show the entire country they will be a factor in the AFC? It's time for Mic'd Up with McIlvoy inside the Texans right now. Hi, everybody. Welcome into KPRC Channel 2. Mic'd Up with McIlvoy inside the Texans. We're going to get you ready for week number 2 of the football season. Texans, of course, coming off the victory at Indianapolis. The Bears over Tennessee. I've got company here in studio. We're going to chop it up for about 30 minutes with you. Adam Wexler from Sports Talk 790 and the A-Team Afternoons. Aaron Wilson, our Texans insider for Click2Houston.com. And Ron Ugley from Sports Radio 610, Sterner and Ugley Show. Guys, good to have you in. Talk a little football. And we've got a big ball game coming up on Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Prime time. Opener for the Texans. That is a big deal.
First time since 2019 when they played the Patriots. Things have changed around here. Absolutely.
Hey, real quick, run through a couple of highlights. If you missed it this past weekend, I'm sure many of you saw every second of this football game. It went to the fourth quarter, 15-13. Joe Mixon, first and goal from the 3, in for his first TD as a Texan, made it 22-13. You know what kind of day he had, 159 yards on 30 carries. Later in the fourth, CJ connecting for the second time, fourth and goal for the touchdown as well. And the Colts not going away. Late in the game, Anthony Richardson tried to keep the Colts in it, capped off the drive right there for the touchdown. At that point, we had a 2-point ball game, but down the stretch, CJ and Nico Collins hooked up as well, and that would seal the win. Look at that catch. 6 catches, 117 yards. Now it is on to Sunday Night Football. Take Dell, what do you think about it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm ready, man. I'm built for things like this. I'm built for them type of games. I'm ready. That's all I can say. I'm ready. I'll be ready. I'll be there.
All right, take Dell. Short and sweet. This guy's fired up to get his first national TV game, and he will be out there, of course, with the Texans. All right, let's start the conversation, guys. With coming into the season, obviously C.J. Stroud getting a lot of the attention coming off the year that he had, and picked up where he left off. I mean, a lot of people are thinking he might regress a little bit, maybe some areas, but still have a fantastic year. But he showed no signs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people can't help but focus on Joe Mixon's 159 yards, putting the game away late. We've talked about it all week, how the Texans finished by going touchdown, run out the clock.
Yeah.
But you got to look at C.J. Stroud again. He was elite again. He's completing 75% of his passes. He converts on third down. He was perfect. 9 for 9 on third and fourth downs throughout the game. That last touchdown, a fourth down run earlier, he fell down on fourth down. I don't know if anybody saw anybody slipping on the Indianapolis turf at all, but he slipped and still made the connection with Brevin Jordan. As great as every other piece was to get that win offensively, he's still the same guy. He is one of the best quarterbacks in this league.
We got some video, if we can roll that, with C.J. Stroud against the Indianapolis Colts. Aaron, as advertised, he's got so many weapons to go to, and he's spread it around.
Right. There's a variety there when you can really go to a Tank Dell, a Stefon Diggs, a Dalton Schultz. You can hand the football off to Joe Mixon. You can throw it to Nico Collins, who I still think is the go-to guy, as evidenced by week 1. And the choices go beyond that because there, at some point, you do go into your depth chart. You look at the other personnel. I think that they're absolutely loaded. I mean, Cam Akers was inactive after a great preseason. You got Dameon Pierce filling in for Joe Mixon. Look at the whole offense. Bobby Slowick, as he said before the game, I got all the ammunition I need.
Ron, what's the best aspect of CJ's game?
I was enjoying watching these highlights, to be honest.
He did fine.
Listen, to me, the game, which was so important, I know we've talked a lot about the offensive line and the running game, is like CJ. If from what we've seen of CJ, that wasn't anywhere close to really like his best.
Yeah.
But like Wexler said, hey, when he had to, 9 for 9 on third downs and fourth downs, and made an amazing throw and put it in the only place it could be on 3rd and 11. But that was impressive to me. Is like, hey, the Texans can now win games, where he is not absolutely at his best, and can win games where he can just pick and choose when he needs to be at his best. Like he didn't have to the entire game run the show, but when he needed to, you saw the greatness of C.J. Stroud.
Put that personnel around him. He's got so many pieces. Now, let's listen in to C.J. He spoke yesterday at NRG Stadium. If this is airing later in the weekend, that would have been Wednesday at NRG when he speaks each week. Here's C.J. Stroud. Actually, he was asked a question about what he thinks of Caleb Williams, his opposing quarterback, on Sunday.
I really didn't get to watch much of him. I just watched the defense, but he's definitely a playmaker, somebody who can extend plays and, make all the cool throws. A tough player, take hits, and really just really talented. So, I definitely do think that he has great things coming in his career. And I definitely do think like he'll get his rhythm going, and it takes time. It's not something that doesn't happen overnight. You can see in every quarterback this week, I think, except for probably Baker Mayfield, who looked really good. Everybody's kind of rusty, trying to just get those kinks out and get that rust away. And I think quarterback play will start picking up week 2, week 3, week 4, just like every year. So I definitely think he'll get his rhythm.
All right, CJ talking about Caleb Williams on Wednesday. You look at what CJ brought to the table as a rookie compared to what Caleb Williams, at least what we've seen in week 1 and maybe a little of the preseason. CJ is so far ahead of him when you go back to the rookie seasons, at least right now. We'll see how Caleb Williams develops.
There's a little bit of been there, done that, though. Remember last year after week 1, nobody knew C.J. Stroud was going to be unbelievable because his week 1 game was not that dissimilar from Caleb Williams' week 1 game. I do think the Ravens defense is a little bit better than this year's Titans defense, although the Titans are pretty good. That's where I think the biggest difference lies. But C.J. picked it up immediately after that. The very next week against Indianapolis at home after they fell behind, that was when Bobby Slowick thinks the team, the coaches, the offensive players felt like this is where C.J. showed us he's got this offense, he understands where to go.
Let's pop up the graphic. We got the head-to-head week 1. Let's leave that up for a little bit if we can. The numbers last week, Caleb Williams facing the Titans, of course, C.J. Stroud facing the Colts. You look at what Caleb did. Ron, we'll start with you here. There's nothing. I mean, he made some big plays. He overthrew a bunch of guys. There were some plays he left out there that could have had more yardage, but didn't exactly wow everybody.
Why you gotta do that to that man? Put that side by side.
You got to put the facts into the numbers, right?
They threw it 29 times for 93 yards. Well, that's not the plan, is it? That's not the plan. Listen, we'll see the adjustments that they make, and to what Wes was saying last year. It looked different. It seemed like and I would even argue after the half of the Colts game last year in week 2, you started to see them kind of get a feel of how they can run things. And I think Shane Waldron and that offense can maybe shift things from one week to another. When you have the guys that they have, like we talk about the Texans talent, they've got guys also, and his talent, you can see a big jump from one week to another of him getting it. There's probably some nerves there coming out Soldier Field, your first game.
Yeah.
But hey, if they're going to throw it 30 times, it's got to be more than 93 yards.
And their offensive line was not good at all against Tennessee. So that's part of the problem, too. They got to find a way to get that fixed.
Right, they got to block for him. He's an extremely talented guy, but obviously had the nerves. And his personnel, it may be even worse this week because Rome Odunze, their very talented rookie wide receiver, has sprained his knee, had an MRI. The good news is he's not out for a long, long time, but he'll miss this game. And Keenan Allen looks like he's lost a step to me and many others. And what they've got is DJ Moore. That's the big threat. DeAndre Swift had no running game to complement Caleb Williams. It's got to get better or they're going to lose another football game. And I really don't see them being very competitive in this game.
That last thing that I think is kind of big, we didn't talk about it yet, but DeAndre Swift didn't do anything. Their running game didn't do anything. And if you look at what the Texans did last week to Jonathan Taylor, he didn't do anything. I know there were the big plays and the explosives, but they made Anthony Richardson try to beat them with his arm. They should make Caleb Williams try to beat them with his arm, and they'll be all set.
Yeah, 84 yards rushing by Chicago in the game against the Tennessee Titans. Switch gears now, guys. Let's talk Joe Mixon. And we rolled the highlights a few minutes ago. I mean, that was one of the great storylines coming out out of that opener. They've got a starting running back. He's healthy. Is he going to do 159 every single week? Probably not. But, man, that's a great start. And, hey, he felt like he left a lot of yards on the table on that football field Sunday.
He probably did. He did have 101 yards after contact, and he did tie his career high with those 30 carries. He also never had a carry of more than 13 yards. So to get to 159 yards without that huge 50-yard run, that means every time he was handing the ball, they were getting positive yards, 4, 6, 8, 9. He wasn't getting caught in the backfield. He has great vision, which I don't think fans here who didn't see him as much in Cincinnati realized he would. And I guess a few minutes into the show, maybe we should say the offensive line was better than we've ever seen, and the interior of the offensive line, specifically Kenyon Green, blowing people off the ball. And that's a good interior Colts defensive line.
Let's roll some of the video. I think we got some of Joe Mixon as we continue to talk about the job he did against the Indianapolis Colts. And, man, he was fun to watch. Just smooth out there. And after the game, he was fired up. And, again, he gave all the credit up front. But he said, man, I could have done better than that.
There was 200 yards out there for him probably. He was really a step away from breaking a long run a couple of times. He had most of his yards running behind Pro Bowl left tackle Laramie Tunsil, their $25 million man. And what I like about Joe is he gives credit to the offensive line. He's a punishing, bruising runner. Like you said, Randy, he's elusive. He can make people miss. He can also catch the football extremely well. They haven't really tapped into that yet, but they will. They'll get to that. Bobby Sloak will use that part of his game. I look at Joe Mixon, total package, and they nailed this trade.
Yeah. He better. This is not a fake give credit. You know, sometimes we've heard CJ give credit to his offensive line, and he's just being a leader. This was real. I mean, them big sexies up front. Yards after contact, there wasn't a lot of times that he wasn't touched 4 yards down the field, and we had not seen that at all. I think also, I know we had been wanting to see, hey, somebody else with this first team offensive line. What does it look like? We kept just seeing Dameon Pierce, someone else. We saw cutbacks, we saw lanes out. Like I said, I think the O-line gave him a lot of room to work with, but he took advantage of the zone scheme and cutbacks and things like that. So he was excellent.
All right, let's pop up his graphic one more time before we listen into Joe Mixon. Again, those are the final numbers. Man, he was the AFC's offensive player of the week. He deserved it. 30 totes, 159, over 5 yards per carry. Can we please just keep that up? That's not going to be a problem at all if those numbers continue. And one of you guys just mentioned, he caught 3 passes for 19 yards. So a big piece to this offense. Support help for C.J. Stroud. Here is Joe Mixon talking about his week, and now moving on to week number 2.
You know what I'm saying? That's accolade for my O-line, the whole offense, receivers, and tight ends, man. I mean, they did a big part of that, you know what I'm saying? And I just was the one to obviously get recognized. But without them, I wouldn't be in that position, man. So I'm just grateful to, I'm over here with a bunch of dogs, and they doing whatever they can, man, to make me look good. I mean, I think it's more so the attitude and that mentality. You know, me and Steph talk about it all the time about how we got reservations and we late. You know what I'm saying? So we trying to go get to it. And you know, when people turn on that tape and they play them Texans, they not out there. And when you turn on that tape, that's what you're gonna see. So we only gonna get better. We only gonna get more polished in the offensive side of it, and we just got to do whatever we can to play collectively as a team.
Man, I think he's ready to put on the pads and play right now. This guy, he was fired up.
Yeah, he seeks out contact. That's the one thing. He finishes. That's probably the big thing that you jump out and see along with his cutback. He is finishing runs. He is running through number 20 for the Colts. He was about done seeing Joe Mixon come running open.
D'Amico Ryans put it really well. I wouldn't want to tackle him, and he's a two-time Pro Bowl linebacker. The guy is a collision runner. Gotta love the way he plays, and he's also the FedEx Ground Player of the Week. Won 2 awards this week.
They were the more physical team. Joe was the more physical runner, running over people, the offensive line, mauling people. Yep. That's usually what's going to dictate who wins a football game. I know it's in the trenches, and they were definitely the winner in the trenches.
All right, we're going to take a break. Much more conversation straight ahead. Inside the Texans, we're going to talk a little bit about Stefon Diggs, and then we're also going to talk about the keys to the victory. Each of us have our 3 keys. We'll run through those, and as we count down to kick off Sunday Night Football. Sunday night, the Texans and the Bears at NRG Stadium. We're breaking away. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Inside the Texans, edition of Mic'd Up with McIlvoy. Again, we're hanging out with Adam Wexler from Sports Talk 790, Aaron Wilson, our Texans insider for ClickToHouston.com, and
Ron Ugley from Sports Radio 610. Guys, got a few minutes here to wrap up the show for sure. And I want to talk a little bit about, we mentioned the receiving core and what C.J. Stroud was able to do in that first segment of the show in his day against the Colts. Stefon Diggs, he came out. I want to get y'all's take on his impact immediately from week number 1. I mean, he went out there, 6 targets, 6 catches, mission accomplished, got in the end zone a couple of times as well. What a big addition, and he says the best is yet to come as well.
Randy, before the game, we were watching him play catch with Kimberly Stroud, play catch with his mom, and you saw the comfortability that he's got, the confidence, and how happy he is to be here.
Yeah.
And the chemistry continues into the game. And him and CJ, they put a lot of time into this in workouts in LA, in Paris, at training camp, in Miami. And right away, they're on point together.
Ron, and we got some video, too, if we can roll that with Diggs. Ron, is he going to be happy in this offense? Is he going to get the football enough?
Well, I mean, he's not going to get the football like he got the football in Buffalo, but I would assume that he understands that. As long as they're winning, I'm certain that everything is fine. I just think with him, his impact is much deeper than what his numbers actually are, especially in week 1. I would imagine that in the passing game, the Colts probably looked at him as the guy that we need to contain. And I think he probably drew a lot of coverage from guys like Nico Collins and Tank to cause openings. So his impact's bigger than just the catches. Now, 2 touchdowns ain't bad either, but his impact is much greater than his numbers.
Well, if the other 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 opponents follow that plan of picking one of the Texans receivers that they need to focus on, well, the Texans are going to smoke everybody because that's foolish. D'Amico Ryans basically said it yesterday. There's no number 1 receiver here. They're all number 1 receivers. I'm going to get the ball, CJ, I'm going to get the ball to who's open. And if you look at their touches or targets, they're basically all identical because they all have advantages. You got all 3 of them can line up in the slot. Diggs is there most often. You know, the 2 catches that end up with him in the end zone, I don't know what defense the Colts was trying to run there. I do understand the personnel on the field, the play design, and Bobby Slowick's play call has a lot to do with it. But he basically walked into the end zone on one of them. They gave him a 10-yard cushion from the 4-yard line, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it still goes back to the signal caller, the trigger man. I don't need to see 350 yards from CJ to know that he's spectacular. When the throws have to be made, he makes them over and over and over again. All these balls he's making, throws he's making to these 3 guys, Brevin Jordan, whomever, they're always on the money.
With the addition of Diggs, Aaron, you got Nico, you got Tank Dell, you got Schultz. I mean, there's just such a great supporting cast that he can go to. It takes pressure off CJ.
Right, and Tank alluded to this the other day. Everyone's happy because everyone eats. Everybody gets the football. The targets are extremely similar, and it's by design. That doesn't happen by accident. They plan this out when they're building the game plans. And you think about the talent all over the roster, I think that C.J. Stroud really can't go wrong. There's anyone he can throw to, and they're going to catch the football, and they're going to get some yards after the catch, and maybe even score a touchdown.
All right, y'all want to play a little game here?
Let's do it.
I call it, it's real original. It's called Over Under. Have you ever heard of that?
I've not heard of it. Explain.
Hey, we're going to pop up a little graphic here. We got a couple of guys. Just for the sake of this show, we're going to have C.J. Stroud and we've got Joe Mixon. And we threw some numbers out perhaps on what they might do against the Chicago Bears coming up on Sunday. Let's pop that up if we can, guys, and we'll take a look at him. Here we go right here. Let's start on the left now. We'll get to Mixon in a second. We're going to start with this guy right here. You know him well, C.J. Stroud. And again, over under. I love the graphic, by the way. Job well done to our graphics hub. All right, I just threw out these numbers. C.J., 230, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Is that what's going to happen against the Chicago Bears? Are you guys going over or under on these?
I got to say, as you said yourself, these are very unofficial over-under numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people know CJ is averaging over 300 yards a game at home in his career, including the postseason.
Nice.
He's going to go over this by quite a bit, I have a feeling, even if Joe Mixon continues to run the ball well. 3 touchdowns, that's kind of high, a little bit high, much higher than I think it'll probably be, because they're going to spread the ball around like they always do. We'll hit him at 2, so that's an under. You think he's going to throw an interception at home? For real? He's only thrown 4 in his whole career at home.
I just threw it out there.
We'll take in the under.
Here.
He's not going to throw a half interception either. We'll take 0.
You take 0. Aaron?
Here we go. The yards, he'll definitely crush that, even though the Bears have a talented secondary. That's why I'm going to tamp down on the touchdowns. I think 2 touchdowns at least.
Okay.
I don't think he hits the 3. Interceptions, he's only thrown 5 for his career. The Bears have an opportunistic secondary. He already knows that. He's going to be careful with the football. No interceptions.
Yeah, I think the yards, I think we agree. They'll jump over that. You would imagine that Joe Mixon just did what he did last week, so there's going to be a little focus on trying to stop the run game. So I think he goes over the yards. I think the touchdowns, that's maybe a little high. I'd say 2, but I do think the interception could be 1, and I think the interceptions for CJ are going to be more prevalent this year, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that dude is super confident in the guys that he has around him, and we saw it. We saw CJ take chances in week 1 against the Colts that we didn't really see him take chances in last year. So I do think he's liable to throw some.
I mean, the Colts did catch 2 of his passes, but neither of them counted.
Exactly.
They cheated on one, and they couldn't stay in bounds on the other.
I'm going over on 230 as well. I think it's going to get closer to 300 yards. I'll go with 2 touchdowns, and I'm with you. I think we're going to see an interception. I think his interception, he finished with 5 last year. I think we're going to see 9 or 10 interceptions, probably max, which is still a good season.
Because he's going to be more aggressive.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's fine.
All right, let's flip it around, guys. Let's go over here to Joe Mixon. And everybody knows he had the great day against the Colts. Can he match that? Will he go over, under on this? Here, we threw out some numbers just for conversation's sake. Let's hope he blows it away. But we just threw up here for conversation 22 carries, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Over, under for Joe Mixon. Ron, start off.
Yeah, I like the carries. I think he'll be around the 20 to 25 carry mark. I'll say under on the yards and touchdowns. I think, as I said, the Bears, they have a pretty decent front.
Yep.
Billingsley in the inside particularly is really good up front.
They gave up 140 yards.
They gave up 140 yards, but I think this is going to be the focus when they come in here.
But under on the yards.
Under on the yards,
okay.
and 2 touchdowns, a little strong too. I'd say under on the touchdowns. I think he'll still have a really productive game, but maybe not that.
Aaron.
I think over on the carries, and this is why. The Bears, when you look at what they can do as a pass defense, they're loaded with talent. They've got Jalen Johnson, they've got Jaquan Brisker, they've got really good personnel in the secondary. I think the yards will go down a little bit because they are stout with Montez Sweat and Tremaine Edmonds, but he'll still be effective. He'll have 100 yards. And then I don't like the 2 touchdown one. I think maybe he doesn't get in the end zone this week, but they find other ways to score.
Well, I'll say I know the Bears logo does make it look like they're going to eat this Sunday against the Texans, but I kind of tend to agree. The thing is, if the Texans are ahead, and I think they will be, well, we're going to see Joe Mixon got 5 of the last 6 carries of the game to put it away. I think something similar might happen, and while they might spread the carries around a little bit, because you're going to be cognizant even early in the season of giving Joe 33 touches a game. That's what he's averaging so far. So I'll take the over on the carries because they'll be watching it, the under on 115 yards, but I think Ron said as well, he's probably going to approach that number. He probably goes under 2 touchdowns. They got so many weapons. I can't just say they're all going in Joe's bag.
All right, I'm going to go over on the carries. I'm going to go over on the yards, and I'm going to go under on the touchdowns. I'm going to say he gets in one time.
You're feeling it, huh?
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I think we're going to keep this tradition going.
Now listen, I'll say if they have possession 20 more minutes in this game than the Bears did like they did last week, then we could see that.
I don't think he's going to 159 yards, but I think he's going to go over 115. We'll see how it plays
you
out.
remember, CJ ended up with 2 carries on scrambles. Dell had 2 carries. Diggs had a carry. Pierce had 3 carries. There's runs to be made in this game.
I think the train keeps rolling, but I don't think he's going to have as many yards last week.
All right, very good. All right, let's end it now. We got our 3 keys to this game against the Chicago Bears. Each of us weighed in. We're going to start with Ron. Your 3 keys. Run through these.
Yeah, to me, just don't help the Bears. It feels like they need help, especially judging off of week 1. They desperately needed help. A punt return, an interception for a touchdown. Don't help them minimize mistakes. Keep pressure on Caleb Williams. When you can confuse young quarterbacks, that's when you start to see mistakes. And run the football with success because you control the game and control the line of scrimmage.
All right, Aaron?
Yeah, continue to spread the football around. A diverse offense is a good offense, and they've got that. Also, need to keep establishing the run. Now that you've done that, keep rolling with it. Keep running the ball, pound the ball, and then take care of the football. They've got to do that too, Randy. They've got to be careful with the ball against the Bears because they can get a pick 6 on you.
What?
The Texans need to continue doing what they do well. Last year, they were not giving up explosive plays. The only reason the Colts were in the game is because they could not stop giving up explosive plays. And Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams are different quarterbacks. I think they can maintain that. Got to get behind the offensive players a little bit better, talking to number 20 most specifically. Protect C.J. Stroud. One thing we didn't mention here, he got hit all day. Even on, limited, about 35, 40 dropbacks, 10 hits, 4 sacks.
Too much.
Stuff Swift, just like the Titans did, and harass Caleb Williams.
All right, real quick, I'll pop up my keys before we wrap it up. Cut down the big plays defensively as well. They got to step that up. The Colts got him a couple of times. Clean that up. Get Mixon motoring. We just talked about some of the numbers and our projections there. And keep Caleb Williams pressured. Keep him confused. He's a rookie. Throw the kitchen sink at him Sunday night and see how he adapts to the big stage of Sunday night football. And we cannot wait for that to go down Sunday night. Again, it's going to be right here on KPRC2. We got our pregame show starting at 5 to 5:30. It's part of our newscast. And then 5:30 to 6, we are all in. We got all kinds of stuff planned outside of NRG Stadium. And I'll be on the field as well. And we'll count you down to kickoff and hand it over to NBC. Guys, this has been fun. Good stuff. Hanging out, talking some Texans as we get ready for week number 2. Ron Ugley, Sports Radio 610. You'll hear me in the afternoons. Aaron Wilson, click2houston.com, our Texans insider. Adam Wexler, the A-Team, Sports Talk 790. Guys, again, thanks for the time. Everybody, enjoy the game Sunday, and the Texans and the Bears will kick it off about 7:20. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again next week.